right person to tell us about the lifestyles effects on mood. I think this is the topic of the day and very much essential, as we know that it has got some connection about how we can improve our social wellness. Much needed topic. Over to you, Rohit. We are looking
Before Rohit starts, I just want to say a word for Lekha. Although all the dietitians, nutritionists in India know her, but she's also currently the HOD and deputy manager at the clinical Apollo Children's Hospital, national vice president of the IAPN, and chief program officer of the pediatric core group IAPN India. Rohit and Lekha, I leave the floor to you. Please start. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. Rohit,
Yeah.
without delay, we can step into our topic. It's over to you first.
Yes. Thank you very much, and very interesting introductions. Thank you very much for the kind words as well. Yes, I've been involved in the development of over 100 products, but I would say that we have a great team. So I was always a part of a team. It's not entirely my credit that I made products, but I'm a part of a very efficient scientific team that works day and night. Keeping up to date with the literature, doing clinical trials, etc., and come up with incredible formulations. I've been just a part of that team. Moving on to the topic, lifestyle effects on mood. How can we improve our social wellness? Very underrated and yet very important topic, social wellness and mental health. So, mood is directly related to your mental health. Social wellness is directly affecting your mood. So it's all related to the brain and the CNS and the brain gut interaction, etc. And you can see in the picture itself, you see that the man with the head and all foodstuffs that affect the brain. What it says is basically there are two things in my vision, in my view, that are extremely important for mental health and what you are and how you behave and what you make out of yourself. One is your DNA, and it's very difficult to override it, although through epigenetics and through lifestyle changes you can also rewrite your DNA, or without changing the DNA sequencing you can alter the way your genes are expressed. But what's most important is what you eat. So there are two aspects that carry your life. One is your DNA and the other is the food that you eat. And today we are going to see how this food, diet, nutrition affects your mood and
So here we are. So sorry. Here we are with when we talk about mood and how is it regulated. So mood is regulated by many neurotransmitters that influence overall mental health. Dopamine increases the pleasure and motivation by activating receptors in the brain's that reward system. Serotonin regulates happiness and stress response by modulating serotonin receptors in the limbic system. Endorphins enhance well-being by binding to opioid receptors, promoting the feeling of euphoria, high positive feeling. Oxytocin fosters social bonding and reduces anxiety by acting on receptors in the amygdala and the hypothalamus of the brain. So, mood disorders, particularly anxiety and depression, are prevalent globally, affecting just under a billion people, 970 million people around the world. But what's also very important to see is the cost of managing CNS related problems or mental illnesses. The cost is nearly $1 trillion each year spent by national health services around the world, be it UK, US, Germany, India, China, everywhere around the world. So if you think about it, $1 trillion spent every year, it's 6-7 times the economies of some countries. You could run 5 or 6 big European countries in that spend. So the spend is very, very high. Some of the underlying pathological mechanisms, including low levels of feel-good hormones, which is serotonin, neuroinflammation, which leads to hyperactivity of the HPA axis and dysregulates the neurotransmission and neurodegenerations. This can be controlled. Non-drug approaches like nutrition, exercise, lifestyle in general can play a big role in the prevention as well as management of poor mental health, and we are going to focus on that. So we will target the pathological process and we'll see what the pathology is, but my focus is on the non-drug side of it. And I'm sure as you're in that profession also, you will relate to what I'm saying more. But we have also spoken about this in medical conferences where we combine the drug approach, pharmaceutical approach, and approach about using anti-anxiety medication alongside the natural approach of vitamins, minerals, lifestyle, exercise, etc. And in each way, way it works, the lifestyle approach works with or without drugs. So there are no contraindications for a lifestyle change, and all kinds of pathological mechanisms could be dealt with, uh, improving your lifestyle. So first of all, we'll start with the micronutrients and which micronutrients are of high importance in mental health. We start with omega-3 fatty acids, highly concentrated in the brain. They may improve mood by reducing the symptoms of depression and anxiety. They influence neurotransmission by affecting the synthesis, release, and uptake of serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, while also modulating the receptor activity, which are often altered in depression. So they are substrates for inflammation solving molecules while lowering pro inflammatory cytokines that stimulate the HPA axis. Additionally, omega-3 fatty acids protect against neurodegeneration, that is, the brain cells getting older and degenerating, by reducing oxidative stress and stimulating the production of brain derived neurotropic factor. So it works in both ways. It is stopping or slowing down the degeneration, and it also stimulates the production of neurotropic factors that affect the brain performance, both ways. And of course, in larger terms, if you were not nutritionists here or dietitians sitting here, and if I had to explain that to a consumer or a patient, you can just imagine the brain being a big bag of fatty acids. It's a bag of fatty acids that floats in your head. It needs fatty acids to function. And omega-3 fatty acids or long chain polyunsaturated fatty acids are the most important fatty acids that the brain needs. There's also a mechanism by which the fatty acids are transported to the brain, and that is best done in the presence of phospholipids. So, but that is another topic. So, a combination of omega-3 fatty acids with a high concentrations of phospholipids could enhance the effect of omega-3 fatty acids. So, it's not just the fish or the fish oil that you consume, it's also what you consume it with. If you consume the polyunsaturated fatty acids classed as omega-3, which provide you DHA and EPA, the most important polyunsaturated fatty acids within the omega-3 category, you need a good transport system to take this to the brain. And those transport messengers or those shuttles that take the omega-3 fatty acid to the brain are phospholipids. Moving on, magnesium. Magnesium deficiency is associated with high stress levels and greater sensitivity of anxiety and depressive symptoms. It inhibits glutamate release via calcium channel blocking, reducing overstimulation of the NMDA receptors and protecting the neurons from oxidative damage, causing cell death eventually. Magnesium supports the cholinergic and the serotonergic systems by acting as a cofactor for serotonin synthesis, enhancing the serotonin and GABA signaling. So it works both ways, on the serotonin itself and also the serotonin GABA interaction. Magnesium also regulates the HPA axis, and its deficiency leads to heightened HPA activity and elevated cortisol levels. Cortisol is the stress hormone. So it also, the deficiency will do the exact opposite of what magnesium would do at normal concentration. Next is zinc. Zinc's deficiency is associated with both depression and anxiety disorders. And, people with lower zinc levels have shown anxiety levels of 10, 15, 11, whereas the accepted anxiety levels on the anxiety scale is about 7. And most of the population today, especially urban population, young population between the age group of 16 to 30, is above that level. So they all have mild to moderate level of anxiety, and some of them have very high level of anxiety. And one of the factors determined in science and research is the deficiency of zinc. a problem also with different FDAs and governmental regulators is that they say 10 mg of zinc is 100% NRB or RDA. And if you really look at the research that is published, that is actually very low. Even the 100% RDA, which nobody has, none of us have that, even that level, even that is low if you want zinc to be working optimum at cellular level, because it influences pro-inflammatory pathways and serves as a cofactor for antioxidant enzymes and the whole antioxidant systems of the body, protecting against neuroinflammation. So very, very important for the brain. It also inhibits the NMDA receptors, reducing the glutaminergic and neurotoxicity. So the glutaminergic activity and the neurotoxicity by promoting a brain-derived neurotropic factor activity, which supports neuroprotection, protects the cells of the brain. It also plays a very important role in serotonergic signaling by affecting serotonin receptors activity in the hippocampus and the frontal cortex of the brain. So it plays the same role in various ways and in various areas of the brain. So it's of high importance. B vitamins, again, as you can see here from this slide also, they are methyl donors. So very important for DNA methylation, which is very, very important for affecting the DNA that I was talking about. Deficiencies in vitamin B can result in neurological abnormalities, including irritation, depression, and anxiety. Anxiety is a lot of time taken in a very loose sense. Oh, if you're scared of something bad may happen, people say that that's anxiety. Or if you are too worried about something all the time, if you overthink, that is anxiety. But anxiety should not be taken that lightly, because, or the term should not be used that lightly, because both anxiety and depression are actually clinical symptoms of a brain disorder, and they need treatment, and they cannot be ignored by saying I'm just stressed. It's a very loosely used term. There is an HPA axis that is involved, that is triggered by stress, and there is a high level of cortisol in those people who say they are stressed, so it needs treatment. The one carbon metabolism involved in the conversion of homocysteine to methionine is fully dependent on B complex vitamins supplied to you, either by food or by a supplement. It is dependent on nutrients like folic acid, vitamin B12, vitamin B6, vitamin B2, because they are cofactors for enzymes that carry on these reactions. The reaction involving folate, that is folic acid, and vitamin B12 is key for remethylation of homocysteine to methionine via methionine synthase reaction. This methionine is the substrate of SAM, which is a methyl group donor, as I said, required for the synthesis of both serotonin and dopamine. You can see that here how it is done through the tryptophan and the tyrosine pathway. The substrate is the same. SAM requires tyrosine hydroxylase and tryptophan hydroxylase, but the key ingredients that stimulate that is your B complex vitamins. Next is vitamin D. Its deficiency is linked to increased risk of depressive behavior and anxiety symptoms. Vitamin D supports neurogenesis by regulating the expression of neurotropins like BDNF and nerve growth factors. Vitamin D is a transcription factor for TPH2 gene that encodes tryptophan hydroxylase involved in the serotonin synthesis. So it's a roundabout approach, but directly related to serotonin synthesis. If you see here, it also downregulates pro-inflammatory cytokines and promotes anti-inflammatory immune responses. So also important for the immune system, but also because it's an anti-inflammatory, it will protect against neuroinflammation of neurocells. Vitamin E, again, a very important micronutrient. Blood levels or low blood levels of vitamin E have been associated with increased symptoms of anxiety and depression. It is an antioxidant which is incorporated into cellular membranes, as you can see here, where it scavenges reactive oxygen species called ROS, protecting cells from lipid peroxidation and neurodegeneration. It may also reduce inflammation in the brain and help correct hyperactivity of the HPA axis, as well as cholinergic and dopaminergic imbalances, which means important for the synthesis of both serotonin as well as dopamine. Polyphenols, they're strong antioxidants and anti-inflammatories. there is a potential that polyphenols can reduce depressive symptoms and enhance moods. They suppress pro-inflammatory signaling pathways, which maintain optimal cholinergic and dopaminergic neurotransmission. They also help reduce oxidative stress and neurotoxic metabolites, protecting against degeneration of the brain cells. Additionally, they may promote neurogenesis by increasing the brain-derived neurotropic factor levels and also reducing cortisol levels in the system. So you can see they have basically that action can be described in 6 different ways: reducing neurotoxic metabolites, helping the gut microbiota, reducing oxidative stress, reducing inflammation, controlling the overactivation of the HPA axis, and also help neurogenesis, formation of neurocells. It's important to talk about the gut-brain axis. If you have a healthy gut, you have a healthy brain, you have a healthy mood. And as I said right in the beginning, the 2 factors that are very important for your overall health, including health of your brain or mental health, is your DNA itself, and next is your gut, your food, what you eat. So a beneficial gut microbiota may decrease depressive symptoms and stress through several mechanisms of microbiota brain communication, and it is shown in this figure here. So short chain fatty acids stimulate the production of GABA that inhibits the HPA axis, thereby lowering cortisol levels. So bacteria synthesize serotonin from dietary proteins, impacting vagal nerve activity, the nerve that runs right down from the brain. They also reduce systemic inflammation by improving intestinal integrity and modulating immune cells. Supplementation with psychobiotics could also support mood improvement and reduce depressive symptoms, which means if you have a healthy microbiota, production of neurotransmitters through the breakdown of protein that you consume from food becomes easy. And that's why dietitians are now starting to support the use of probiotics and enzyme related products for their patients. So psychobiotics is basically a term that is used for helpful bacteria that helps the gut-brain axis. So you have here Bifidobacterium longum, you have Lactobacillus platyrum. They are perceived to be reducing stress by reducing cortisol levels, improving dopaminergic activity, and increasing dopamine and serotonin levels. Exercise. How much to do, when to do, because physical activity is definitely known to reduce the risk of developing depression and has an antidepressive effect in patients with clinical depression. Exercise enhances neurogenesis by increasing circulating neurotrophin factors such as BDNF, IGF-1. It also upregulates the activity of the body's antioxidant system, protects against neuroinflammation because it also has anti-inflammatory effect. And regular exercise of about 30 minutes of, say, aerobic exercise 5 times a week, which accounts to about 550 minutes of exercise, is known, scientifically proved, to release dopamine, serotonin, endocannabinoids, and endorphins in your system. To achieve these benefits, 150 minutes is important. But if you can't do 150, it is advised that at least 3 times a week you should do some form of exercise, move. It is, as they say, that muscle is very important, and everybody is not into gaining muscle and stuff like that. But one thing is for sure, whether you make more muscle or not after a certain age, if you don't use it, you lose it. So using your muscle, having some kind of physical activity is not just important for your physical strength and avoiding sarcopenia and osteoporosis in old age, but it's also important for the release of dopamine, serotonin, cannabinoids, and endorphins in your brain. Meditation increases the hippocampal volume, which is crucial for emotion regulation, and its loss is linked to depression and anxiety. This is again proven now in scientific literature. There are clinical trials done on this. Breathing exercises stimulates the parasympathetic neurons and lower cortisol levels. Meditation helps in reducing rumination, a pattern of repetitive negative thinking, by shifting the attention to present experiences and increasing metacognition, encouraging non-judgmental acceptance of negative thoughts. So all this is scientifically proven, and that's why meditation is important. So what I'm trying to say is, it's not the one or two thing. It's not just the micronutrients or the macronutrients or what you eat. It's a holistic approach. You have to have all these things right. A holistic lifestyle approach should be adopted to effectively increase good mood. This is because the discussed aspects possesses synergistic effect, where they target different pathological processes by underlining depression and um, um, anxiety, thus having a stronger effect on the mental health than one factor alone. Hence, all this has to come together. Nutrients like antioxidants, vitamins, polyphenols can be supplied from fruits and vegetables as well as nutraceuticals. Unfortunately, our food is devalued and we don't have the right level of micronutrients in the food, and that's why supplementation with a good vitamin supplement becomes imperative. So, like you can see in the slide, yes, you need the magnesium, you need the vitamin D, you need the zinc, you need the omega-3 fatty acids. Unfortunately, it's hard to get adequate amount from foods. Hence why I've shown that capsule there. It will work on your gut. You need to, along with that, you need to take fatty acids, you need to exercise, and you need to meditate, sleep well, and keep yourself hydrated. So all this comes together. So the take-home message is basically a culmination of all that I've said so far. Many nutrients are necessary for optimum functioning of the brain, and their intake may target key pathological processes that contribute to poor mental health, including neurotransmitter aberrations, inflammation, neurodegeneration, etc. Diets that are rich in prebiotic, probiotic, uh, you know, uh, ingredients can help keep your gut healthy. That will also help with extra serotonin formation and supplying more serotonin to the cells of the body. But regular exercise, sleep, meditation, keeping hydrated, these things are just as important as your micronutrient and macronutrient support. So when you have all this synergistically, actually beating that depressive behavior, anxiety, or any kind of mental health that 970 million people around the world are suffering with, where we are spending more than $1 trillion managing it, can be achieved more naturally. Thank you. And there are references in the slides. Of course, we'll be very happy to circulate these slides over. The presentation that we made are based on these references, and they're all very recent references, about 100 of them. Would appreciate if you read that, and I'm open to questions now.
Thank you, Rohit. You had explained it so well and rightly said. It's not just one ingredient or one item. It's just a combination which we need to work on. It's well explained by you. And we are already having so many questions in the chat box. And I believe now it's almost 100 participants and there are 8 people waiting for. So I've requested Eileen to help with the YouTube channel or some connection where we can take it forward again, because there are many people waiting to hear from you. And
I've
we
shared the YouTube. I've shared the YouTube.
Okay, thank you, Eileen. Rohit, we shall go through the questions, what is there in the chat box. We have Nishita checking about how much zinc should be given. Uh, so, Nishita, with regard to, can you take up this, Rahul? She's asked about the requirement of how much of zinc should be given.
How much of zinc should be given?
Yes.
Okay, so good question. 100, the safe levels are up to 50 mg. So up to a 50 mg, there is, I don't see anything wrong with it. How much should be given really depends upon what are you looking for. For a maintenance, 10 to 15 mg a day through a capsule or tablet is fine, because we also have zinc coming from regular things in food. 20 mg if you are looking for something very specific. For brain health, anything between 10 to 20 mg additional support in addition to a healthy diet is what is recommended.
Yeah, well taken. And even I would like to add on, even in terms of pediatrics also, no, for zinc, we go with that recommendation of 10 to 15. That should be fine in that age group too. There's another interesting question which has come up. If someone is depressed, most of the time they are sleeping. So how do we look into that they're getting the right nutrients? So the patient is sleeping, they are depressed, and now we are talking about their mental health. So how do we meet the requirement?
Yeah, I mean, one thing about depressive behavior is they are sleeping, but they're not actually sleeping, because if they're actually getting a good REM, good sleep consistency, they would not be depressed, because sleep itself is a deep sleep is good medication for brain. So they're actually not sleeping. Maybe they're lying down and they're not they cannot consume enough meals because they don't feel like eating and stuff like that, and hence micronutrient supplementation becomes very important. Now, I'm not saying that micronutrient supplementation, we are in this business and we manufacture these products. So, of course, I believe in that science. But I'm not saying that if you take micronutrients and if you take a vitamin pill that's going to resolve all problems. You have to still eat. You cannot eat as much when you are depressed, but what I would suggest is, if dietitians could make a meal plan which requires less frequent eating because of depressive behavior and long hours spent in the bed, etc., and focus on two important factors. Number one is having a high protein, because that protein is required for the bacteria to activate in the stomach, and that breakdown of that protein would help in synthesis of the neurotransmitters that are produced with the help of the good bacteria in the intestine. And second is include a lot of fiber in the diet, where whatever number of meals they take, 2 or 3 meals, or even one meal a day, whatever they take, because they are depressed and they're not eating enough. I think these two have to be looked after, along with hydration. So if they take a little less carbs, or less fat, or more carbs than necessary, little more fat than necessary, it should not be the end of the world. But what is very important is they take enough protein, because the breakdown of that protein through good bacteria will affect neurotransmitter production. And also important to have a lot of fiber in the diet, because the bacteria that is going to break the protein down to produce these neurotransmitters are fed by fiber. Fiber is prebiotic. That is the food for the bacteria in the gut. So I would say then just focus on more protein and fiber. If they cannot consume a lot of vegetables, because again, getting fiber from vegetables means 3-4 meals of good quantity of vegetable. They can use things like isabgol, psyllium husk, which is a soluble fiber. If you take a spoon of isabgol, gives you 90% fiber. So if you're taking like 20 grams of isabgol, you get about 16, 17 grams of fiber, which is very difficult to get from even 100 grams of green vegetables. So I would say those are, the approaches that you can take as a shortcut.
Very well taken. The next question, the part of the answer you have already given. The question is, how important is gut health in relationship to mental health, and how we can improve it? So
Gut health,
talking about the
as
fiber,
that
what
is
you have
very
just said
important.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But how to improve is this: that gut health needs a high protein in the diet and high fiber in the diet. Along with that, if you can manage hydration, it's fantastic. If you can add, so there are 5 factors. I would say 5 factors, and as much as you can do, you can do. If you can't do, maybe you can try and do 4 of the 5 or 3 of the. So number one is your macronutrient requirement. Most importantly, protein. Number two is fiber. You need a lot of fiber. Number three is hydration. Hydration is very, very important. Number four is physical movement. So you don't have to go to the gym. If you're depressed, I understand you don't, but at least walk. If you're not doing anything, at least walk 10 to 15,000 steps a day. And last is try and sleep as much as you can. If you combine these 5 things together, your gut will be very healthy, because the gut and the neurotransmitters are so related. And these are the 5 factors basically driving gut health.
Very good. Next question is about, they've again asked you to explain about the omega-3 fatty acids benefits in the mental well-being. Whatever
So
you explained
actually,
initially, if you could
there
repeat
is
that again.
yeah, there is the ALA that you need, alpha linolenic acid, but actual components of the ALA is the long chain. When you talk of the polyunsaturated long chain fatty acids, is the EPA and the DHA, docosahexaenoic acid and eicosapentaenoic acid. They come from fish oil at for a large extent. If you don't wish to buy fish oil, you can rely on 3 to 4 portions of fatty fish a week. If you're not a fish eater, it becomes very important that you take fish oil. If you're a vegetarian and you can't take fish oil, then the best way to do that is take flaxseed, consume flaxseed as a vegetarian source of fish oil. But omega-3 actually works in the brain. It works on the stimulation of the HPA axis and controlling the HPA axis activity. It works on dopaminergic neurons as well. and it works on the release of serotonin, both by production as well as managing its reuptake mechanism. Now, as I said when I was explaining the slide, that it is not just how much fish you consume and how much fish oil you consume. It's very important that you consume it with the shuttle system of the body. The shuttle system is phospholipid. So you need to make sure that you consume enough phospholipids. Now, if you ask me, what are these phospholipids? In layman terms, they come from their transport systems of the body. In scientific terms, they are phosphate groups, attached to fat molecules, and the most important being phosphatidylcholine and phosphatidylserine, PC and PS. Both are available in food, but not in enough quantity, and hence you go for supplements that have phosphatidylcholine or phosphatidylserine. If you want to solely rely on food, there are foods like eggs. The yolk of the egg is rich in lecithin, and lecithin is a good supply of phosphatidylcholine and serine. Rice is a good supplier of phospholipids. Organ meat, people who eat meat, organ meat is has a very high concentration of phospholipids. But if you're a vegetarian, I think the best source is having rice. If you're an vegetarian, you get enough lecithin from eggs.
Rohit, this question is on potassium and magnesium requirement per day.
See, potassium is not a very important mineral because of abundance in food. It can be easily available, in different foods, butternut, squash, sweet potato, banana. You get enough potassium from that. The magnesium is very little in all these sources. All the mineral sources of food contain very little magnesium, and hence why I'm focused on the magnesium supplementation more than potassium. Also, the four most important ingredients or minerals that are required by the body, predominantly because it makes the heart works, is calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium. Now, sodium is there in salt. Calcium is there in dairy products. Potassium is there in most fruits and vegetables. The only thing that is missing is magnesium. And hence we focus so much on telling people to have extra magnesium supplement. But that balance is very important. But they are not interdependent. They four work together for the health of your heart and organs and managing cholesterol and homocysteine levels. Yes, the four minerals work together, but they're not interdependent. What are interdependent are calcium and magnesium. The calcium will not work without magnesium, and magnesium cannot work without magnesium. But potassium and magnesium can work independently. You have enough potassium in food sources, vegetables and fruits, but you don't have magnesium in anything. The primary source of magnesium is supposed to be water, spring water. But we don't drink spring water anymore, right? Because of the other impurities in water. We drink filtered water, we drink bottled water. And when this distillation of water is done, magnesium is lost. That's why we have a whole generation of magnesium deficient people.
Very true. Another interesting question from Huda. She's asked about how can someone balance nutrition and mental well-being in a busy lifestyle?
Well, that's about commitment, really, because like you balance the most important things in your life, people say that, one couple has one kids, another has five kids. How do you balance that? If you have your life planned properly, priorities set, you can raise five kids. Somebody would say one is too much. So it's just like that. If you're juggling five balls, if you're capable, if you have that, say discipline takes you long. I can only speak and motivate you for a day or two. You can remember the speech today, and tomorrow, maybe day after, you'll forget what I said. So, it is about how disciplined you are. To me, it works well because I follow a timetable of things. I try to not delay any start, and I try to not overdo anything and not, go out of my time frame. So if you plan yourself well, that you wake up at 5 o'clock, have a pre-workout meal, go to the gym, come back, and then start your day. You can do that. I know people who I know women who have jobs and kids and cook and and go and do their work as well, and they're physically extremely fit. So it's all about discipline. I think the more you plan your day and stick to the plans, the more you can push more things into your schedule. See, at work in the corporate life, I have one observation which I would like to share with you. They say that when there is an extra assignment that comes to my office, I try and give it to the busiest person in the office. I don't find a person who has a lot of time. I go and give that assignment to the busiest person because I know that the busiest person knows how to manage because they know how to plan. So I would never go and give it to the person who has more time. I would give it to the person who is doing already 20 things. I know they would accommodate the 21st thing as well. Somebody who is doing only two things would complain that, oh, you're giving me this extra work. I can't because I'm already very busy. So it's just like that. It's just a discipline. We have 24 hours in a day. I think we have more than enough time to sleep, work, be successful in what we do, and look after our health as well.
Well explained. In a busy schedule, as you said, the management depends on yourself also, how you're planning out. And there could be times when we need a support or help from someone who's along with us. There's nothing wrong in getting that. Rather than,
Absolutely not.
putting everything towards your head, you can get the help of your colleagues or anyone, or a family member. Maybe in our busy schedule, such small things could also help us a lot. Another question is it's a suggestion from Momini Das. She's saying about probiotics are not to produce GABA. They are used only for psychobiotics. Is it?
Well, a psychobiotic is meant to work with GABA and dopaminergic neurons. So they may not be directly acting on the GABA, but indirectly the effect is very similar because they will act on the receptors, they will act on the pathways, and they will act on the production of neurotransmitters that work alongside GABA. As I said, when you break down proteins, you form neurotransmitters. So that will work on dopaminergic cells, it will work on serotonergic neurons, and it will also work on GABA.
Right. There's a question about, is there any book which we can suggest to learn about nutrition and mental well-being? Among the references what you have given, do we have any books on that?
Well, there are lots of books. There are lots of books,
Okay.
and I I do not read books or recommend books that are written by non-academics. So I would really think that it's important to read academic things, something that is written by a professor of medicine or professor of nutrition, because uh, what you see on face value has much more deeper
Right.
science when you dig into it. Most books on nutrition are not worth reading. But I would say if you really are interested in seeing what's going on currently, because people argue, people say that, oh, this book was published 10 years back. It's a good book, but it doesn't have the modern research. Hence why instead of reading books, I think you should read published articles, published papers. And British Journal of Nutrition is a very good, you know, journal to read. And there is a journal called Nutrition itself. It's a very good journal to read. Basically, I use online sources like PubMed, Science, and Science Direct. If you have a
Okay,
subscription to
Netscape is
PubMed
there.
and Science Direct,
Mm.
it gives you the best articles that explain everything. I know sometimes paper reading could be a lot of jargon because sometimes there is too much science, because papers are generally outcomes of clinical trials and everybody doesn't have that clinical background to decipher the statistical information published in a paper. What you should do in that case is just read the abstract mainly. You get a lot of information from the abstract, and if you feel that it is your area of interest, then go into details of how that clinical trial was done. But generally the abstract, conclusion, observations, inference part of a paper gives you most of the information.
Right. The next delegate would like to understand about how to balance blood sugar level to prevent mood swing.
Blood sugar level, when you have the spike and the slumps in blood sugar level, that's when your mood changes. So the best thing is to maintain that without having too much spikes and too lows of that. And the best way to do that is not have direct sugar in your food. You can have complex carbs to do the role of the sugar. So the good role that the sugar does is giving you energy to do a workout, say, or you need some sugar if you're running or exercising, etc. You can do it with the help of complex carbs. So instead of having a sugary thing that has direct sugar in it, a dish, you can get that carbohydrate from, say, a bowl of oats. Have a porridge before you work out instead of something very sweet. You can combine porridge with a psychostimulant like a caffeine or something, and you can get energy from there instead of having that energy coming from simple sugars. So complex sugars replacing simple sugars combined with fiber could be very, very important. As I said, if you struggle with fiber and if you're not able to consume a lot of vegetables with some, carbs, that carbs could be oats, could be boiled rice, etc. Try shortcuts like psyllium husk isabgol. Once a day at the end of the day, it will make sure that you do not your sugar doesn't raise in the blood when you consume sugar. It doesn't give the wrong message for insulin production when it's not required. So balancing it with fiber is very my go-to ingredient is psyllium husk for that to balance the blood sugar.
And with the timely taking the food, that is again important. With all this, no, we should not be skipping the meal for a long time. Timely having the right food would be the best choice.
See, what has
Next,
happened these days is because there is so much of science on the internet, which is not actually science, people are following these crash diets.
right, right.
Young and old people, I'm not just blaming the new generation. Everybody wants to lose weight. They don't know what a BMI signifies and what is it losing weight in the right way. Losing weight in the right way is losing fat, not losing weight, and building muscle. So you have more lean body mass and less body fat. That will help you protect your organs as well as keep you physically fit. And to do that, frequent meals are good. But some people just don't want to do it. They go on diets, one meal a day, and fasting for 16 hours and all of that. If it suits you, do it. But these things are not sustainable. These things cannot be done in a long time. I think it's best to do something that you can carry on for the rest of your life without thinking. So if you manage calories instead of meals, I think it's a better approach. I do it that way. If I plan my calories that I'm not going to take more than 2,500 calories, a day, and out of that, I want so much, say 160 grams coming from protein and 250 grams coming from carb and 80 grams coming from fat. All I have to do is manage that in my head. These days, exact calorific value of every food. You can just Google it if you don't know, how much calories in a pumpkin, how much calories in spinach, and you get full breakdown, and then just plan your meals accordingly. My way of working is not around the meals. My way of working is working around the calories. If I make the 2,200, 2,400 calories from 6 meals, good. If I make it with 3 meals, okay. If I make it with 5 meals, still doesn't matter.
The next question is that only. Can intermittent fasting impact mental health positivity and negatively?
In a short term, yes. In short term, it does a lot of cleansing work, and it promotes IGF, growth factors, etc. So it helps with growth. In men, there are clinical trials that have shown it improves serotonin levels, it improves testosterone levels also. But I wouldn't do intermittent fasting in the long term because it would have an effect on your glucose metabolism and maintenance of insulin levels. Because starving whole day and having one meal is not for the evolved world. It was okay when we were still evolving. For the evolved world and the urban lifestyle that we have adapted ourselves to, where there is very little physical work, there is less sleep, there is a lot of stress, eating more frequent meals, but within the calorific intake that you define for yourself is a better approach.
Okay. Your take on Mediterranean diet?
A vegetarian diet is fine, but it doesn't.
Mediterranean diet. Mediterranean
Mediterranean
diet, which is more
Mediterranean
on the
diet.
vegetables,
Yeah,
fruits.
Mediterranean diet is fantastic. It's just very hard to follow because of lifestyle. If we were all just working from home, and if there was a chef cooking us 5, 6 meals a day with all these fantastic vegetables, olive oil, and salads, etc., amazing. My view is very positive. Mediterranean diet is very good diet because rich in fiber. But since we can't have all that, I think if you could just manage your food in such a way that if you want a good night's sleep, a little carb at night is good. Although a lot of people say don't have carbs at night, I think for mental health, a little carb at night is good. During the day, you don't need as much carb if you have carbs in the first thing in the morning. So if you have a good source of carbs like a porridge, oats, chapatis, whatever in the morning before you work out, that should keep you well for the whole day. And then you can practice the Mediterranean diet during the day. when you're at work, etc., have vegetable salads and a piece of fish or meat or something like that. I think a little carb in your last meal of the day could actually help with your mental health, because it gives you good night's sleep, because carbs are related to serotonin release. Carbs, calm your nerves down as well. So not having any carb and just sticking to the Mediterranean diet, especially last thing in the night, people say body doesn't digest carb, etc., is not right.
We have many ladies in the group, and we have few questions which is slightly out of the topic, which is with regard to the period cramps and magnesium and zinc supplementation. Uh, since we are talking about even micronutrients, and you have an expertise on nutrients with regard to the oral nutrition supplements or as a multivitamin, what is your take on that?
Magnesium
Magnesium.
is magnesium is extremely important for anything that has um, um, cramps related to hyperextension, or
Period cramps also for women
yeah.
during their menstruation period.
Yes. So cramps are of two types. One from hyperextension of any body part, muscle, tissue, etc. And second is that is caused by contraction, too much contraction of something. Menstrual cramps are caused by hyperstimulation of contraction, and magnesium definitely would be very useful. But I've also seen magnesium supplements with 100 mg magnesium, 150 mg magnesium. That magnesium is not going to really work. If you want to make that magnesium work, you need an elemental value of 375 mg minimum. If you can manage that through a good supplement, then it would work. The less magnesium doesn't actually work. It has to be taken at its optimal value.
Okay. They do say about, like, the magnesium even helping with, relaxing the uterine muscle. So of course, probably they should get connected with their gynecologist also and check about the exact condition, and then think about recommending that. We have
Cramps
another.
in the, as I said, cramps in the muscle are of two types: basic
Yeah.
hyperextension and too much contraction. The uterine muscle cramps or period cramps are because of excessive contraction,
Okay.
right? It will definitely help if you have the right dose of magnesium,
Okay.
and if it is taken in the right way. The best way to take magnesium is that follow the RDA, which is 375 NRV, uh, and also take it on a full stomach. Probably at the end of the day is even better.
Okay. Right. I'm just looking into the chat whether I have just missed out any questions. Mostly, I think I have covered everything. One more interesting question is about the importance of micronutrients in migraine condition.
Migraine, again, magnesium is the most important one, which has proven, um, science. But there is very little science around migraine in general, right? A migraine pain is also genetic, and it's also engraved in, in the way your system reacts. The pain stimulus of migraine is quite different from other kinds of pain, because migraine directly affects the CNS. It's not a muscle pain. It affects your central nervous system. It is very neuron derived pain. And the best thing for that is keeping yourself very hydrated. A source of potassium combined with fiber and sugar, which is a banana, the best example, and having high levels of magnesium generally in your blood, which is a constant daily source of magnesium. If you take a magnesium tablet every day, if you eat well, that is from time to time, not hunger. Hunger could be a trigger. And the last and the most important trigger for migraine is the sun itself. I mean, if you have migraine, you have to avoid the sun. If you do all this and still go in the sun, it's going to be still difficult to manage migraine. But yes, magnesium is very important.
Right. I understand this is an educative sections what we have. If the organizer permit, there are few questions about asking about brands which can be recommended. If it is okay, you can go ahead in telling that magnesium supplement which to take, and they wanted
Magnesium.
to know about the brand name.
Look, it may sound a bit biased, but because we have our own brands, I'm of course going to recommend our brands. Yeah, but I'll tell you why I recommend our brand. So for magnesium, there is a product called Ultra Magnesium that you can recommend. For overall multivitamin for men, I would recommend Wellman, And for a overall vitamin for a woman, overall multivitamin, I would recommend a brand called Well Woman. They're all our brands. Why I recommend that those brands is not just because I work in that team. I recommend those brands because they are food supplements manufactured to pharmaceutical standards. So what you don't get in normal food supplements is correct regulations. You don't have clinical data on most of the food supplements that are sold, nutraceuticals, because there is no regulatory requirement to have clinical data. Whereas with Well Man, Well Woman, Ultra Magnesium, Ferroglobin, Perfectil, these supplements are supported by clinical trials and they are manufactured to high standards of pharmaceutical GMP. That's why, as a healthcare professional, dietitians can trust that, and a consumer or a patient can trust is because it is the highest recommended brand by all HCPs, gynecologists, pediatricians, internal medicine doctors. They all recommend this brand, so it is the highest recommended brand as well.
Thank you, Rohit. Another question is about omega-3 fatty acids in infants. How soon can we start it?
You can start it from 6 months. 1 year is the safest, but also there is data where we have, where people have tried it on 6 months old babies and they have performed well. See, actually, omega 3 starts getting into the young one as a fetus, because there are a lot of pregnancy supplements that have omega 3 DHA capsule. And one of the things that the omega 3 does, the DHA, is work on the baby's brain and optic nerve development, right? So the infant is, before it is born, as a fetus, it is used to taking omega 3. So there is no danger that a child should not take omega 3. If you think about it, the fetus was exposed to omega 3
Yes,
in
right.
the mother's womb. So this is actually the safest thing that you can offer your child.
Right. The question next is about zinc in reducing period cramps.
It's mainly magnesium. Zinc has some data as well, because it helps with the contraction, and it helps with muscle stimulation as well as managing the blood flow, etc. But I think the two main minerals are um, iron and magnesium.
Okay. Rohit, just like if we are taking the actual balanced diet, what is required? Do you think we'll be able to meet the requirement, or still we need to go for taking any additional supplementation?
Ideal diet, as you said, Mediterranean diet, right? That is the closest to an ideal diet, the Mediterranean food diet. But no, it doesn't give you everything that you need because of devaluation of food. I'll give you an example, like which is the best vegetable. I would say most nutritious vegetable would be spinach and broccoli, right? They contain high levels of the minerals that other vegetables lack, broccoli and spinach. And even they do not give you the right levels of folic acid and iron, because they will give it if you consume kilos of that. 400 micrograms of folic acid is recommended for women's health in fertility age, right? For pregnancy, fertility, post pregnancy, everything, general well being. To get 400 micrograms of folic acid, you may have to eat about 1.5 kilos of spinach. It's impossible. Nobody can eat 1.5 kilos of spinach at a time in a day, right? So food supplements are required because, unfortunately, because of bad farming practices, etc., we have devalued food over a period of 100 years now. So what our grandfathers got or what our grandparents got 50, 60, 70 years ago from food, we are not getting that. What my grandfather may have got from orange by eating one orange, he may have got about 50, 60 mg of vitamin C, which is 80% of the RDA, right? RDA is 80 mg of vitamin C. So maybe he had to consume only 1.5 orange a day. Today, concentration is 50 times less. To get 50, 60, 70 mg of vitamin C, you will have to consume 50 oranges. You can't. Although orange is good for health, but you can't consume 50 oranges. There is beta carotene in these supplements, whether you take Perfectil, Well Woman, and all this. Beta carotene is a source of retinol, vitamin A. Beta carotene 2 mg is enough, a small amount, 2 milligrams a day is enough. But if you have to get beta carotene from carrots, which is the food source of beta carotene, you will have to eat 17, 18 carrots to get 2 milligrams of beta carotene. So it's a good source, but you cannot practically consume 18 carrots in a day.
Right.
Just too difficult. So because of that, you take it as a supplement. But remember, food supplements are called supplements. Supplements
Right.
mean something supplementary to a good diet. So you need to have a good diet rich in protein, rich in complex carbs, not simple carbs, good fiber content. So lots of salads, cucumbers, carrots, etc. And then you supplement that with a vitamin mineral tablet.
Very true. And what about the processed food, which most of the kids are nowadays, they tend to take that impact on later part of their lifespan and their mental well-being.
It is a bit hyped as well. Okay, processed food is not good. I don't support processed food, packed foods, but it's very loosely used term. I mean, milk is also processed, right?
Right.
Milk is healthy, milk is processed. What you get yogurts in supermarkets, that is also processed. Everything goes through some process. Now the degree of what processing is done could be different. So sugar is processed, white sugar is processed, even jaggery is processed.
Right.
You're not directly having it from sugarcane or beetroot or whatever, right? So everything has some processing done. Packed foods generally have advantages and disadvantages. A packed food would have an advantage is that everything would be correctly written on the pack because of regulations. So you see exactly what you are taking, right? When you have packed food, you don't have to calculate in your head what carbs I'm getting, what protein I'm getting from. It's all there on the nutrition information. The bad thing is that you have 20 ingredients that you don't need in your system because it's packed food. So it's a combination of things. How much you can't have everything processed, but you can't have a life without processed foods. We are surrounded by processed food. I think balancing it out is very important. There is no way we can completely
Right.
remove all processed foods, but reading, for example, what you read is very important. See, bread is a staple food for all markets, for India, for England, for America, everywhere bread is eaten, right? But you need only 4 ingredients to make bread. But if you
Very true.
read the ingredients on a packed bread, there are about 20 ingredients. There are so many different types of dextrins, this, that, yeast and processing aids and all of that. You don't need all those chemicals. But in those small quantities, is it very harmful? No, if it was that harmful, it wouldn't be in the market. There are regulators, there are food standards agencies that these products go through. So it is not that bad. But if you can replace it with homemade chapatis instead of marketed, bread preparation,
Right.
it's fantastic. If you cannot, it's not end of the world. Consume it with a level of caution. But the fact that the product is in the market from a well-known big manufacturer means that it has gone through all the regulatory checks and it is safe for human consumption. That's why it's in the supermarket. So don't get too carried away by what you see on the internet and all this, oh, packed food are bad, this has this. It's all checked. There are regulators, scientists who actually check all of that. It's not as bad.
Point well taken and wonderfully explained, Rohit. I should say just this past 1 hour, 59 minutes, we are just done with so much of discussion and so much to hear from you. So I should thank you for this wonderful insights, what you have given to all of us. And of course, I'm sure Eileen would agree to that, right? I think we should have
Definitely.
a part
It
two of
was
the
a
same.
superb combination. I could just go on listening to all of you talk. It was lovely. In fact, Rohit has joined from UK and
Oh,
from the UK time. So the time zone is different, but still, we're really grateful that Rohit has been able to.
and wonderful interaction from our
Yeah,
delegates.
yeah, yeah.
I should say that. Like right from the start, we have too much of questions going on.
So
But lovely,
next
Eileen.
Friday we are having
Okay.
not going to have because it's 14th and 14th is a holy. It's a big festival in India.
Okay.
So we have preponed Rohit's talk. We have a very dynamic moderator. Zamrud is going to be there. So it's going to be
Wonderful.
on the 12th, and I will definitely send a reminder to everybody that we are having the next and the last topic with Rohit, and after that we will have something else coming up. But today's session was excellent, and I would like to thank Lekha, Rohit, and all
Thank
my
you.
members of the academy as well as the dietitians who came up upon on this thing. If you need to see the recap of this entire program, you can also join the YouTube and find it. I've shared the YouTube links everywhere.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank you.
Rohit, and thank you,
Thank you,
Lekha.
Aiden. Thank you,
Thank
Rohit.
you.